Good afternoon, welcome to UK Column News. It is the 4th of February 2015 and it's just gone 1 o'clock. Myself, Louise Collins, Mike Robinson and Nick are here in Plymouth. Dream team are back. We've not done this for ages, have we?
No, Brian's away today, so I've been dragged into the studio kicking and screaming for today's programme. How's the weather?
Cold.
Cold.
Icy,
bright,
that's enough.
Pleasant.
Yeah.
It is fresh and nice outside.
Weather's getting boring now.
Unfortunately, it's not cold in Eastern Europe, and in fact, it's getting hotter all the time. And this, I mean, I have to say, this article just blew my mind. Roger Boyce here absolutely must be off his head to write this stuff. He says the Russian leaders, he's talking about Putin, of course, the Russian leaders' expansionist aims are clear. And he's complaining that slickly turned out lobbyists have urged them often not to demonize Vladimir Putin. And he's saying that so many of this happens so often, he reckons Satan himself must be running an account with one of London's reputation-burnishing PR companies. But he goes on to say that Putin is set on a blood and soil mission to purify the nation through conquest and annexation. And it's the rhetoric doesn't improve, really. It is a spectacular article, absolutely banging the war drums, because after all, it was Putin that invaded Iraq. It was Putin that bombed Libya. Putin clearly installing missile defences right up against the borders of Britain and the United States.
Coming out with weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Putin he's clearly worked very hard to expand the Warsaw Pact countries right up to EU borders. I mean, I just don't get what is going through this guy's mind. So I don't know whether he was on drugs or something when he wrote this. But anyway, you know, sanity is at least appearing in some places, and more and more people really warning about the risk of war with Russia. And they're not warning about Putin, of course, they're warning about Britain, the US and NATO. Gorbachev a couple of weeks ago warning that the danger of nuclear war. Of course, a couple of weeks ago as well, we had the doomsday clock being moved forward again to 3 minutes to midnight. So in this article here from AFP, we have Nick de Laringa, Europe editor for Jane's Defence Weekly in London. He's saying the conflict is being portrayed as the Kremlin standing up to the West, claiming Kiev is a pawn of NATO. He's saying, though, however, supplying lethal assistance to Kiev would be fulfilling that prophecy and would even harden Russia's position. Other people saying similar things and really warning about it. I mean, even Pat Buchanan in the States coming out and saying that it's a crazy thing for the US to be going over, even to be viewed as only going over to train Ukrainian troops would be an absolutely a thing which would incite trouble.
Absolutely.
Right. So what is actually going on in Ukraine? Well, we know that the civil war continues, but actually I thought, I thought this little article, sorry, I apologise for this. I've missed one out.
Well done.
There you go.
Go on, tell us anyway.
Okay, so I'll tell you anyway. Basically, there was an article in TASS, I believe it was, saying that Ukrainians of conscription age are now really getting out of the country pretty quickly because they believe that the situation is getting to a pretty serious stage. They're likely to be conscripted at any second, and so they've decided to get out. And where are they going? Do you think they're coming to Europe?
Possibly.
No. Russia. They're going to Russia, of course.
Really?
Yes, because clearly that is a
safer place, a better place to be.
Right. But anyway, this article then in the Mail, again AFP publishing this. It's quite interesting because, of course, you ask what is the motivation behind this war moves, and as I've been saying many times, it is of course the BRICS, and so this is the BRICS leaders again meeting and absolutely. Announcing their hand-in-hand policies. Of course, they're concentrating on development. They're not concentrating on war. So they're looking at building up their nations. China, Russia, India, again meeting, and of course this for the IMF, the World Bank, the central banking system in the West, which is utterly bankrupt, as we've said many times before. This is an extremely dangerous situation, so China, India, Russia meeting again, and the West. Not happy about it.
No, they better start a war then, hadn't they?
Indeed. So, 3-parent babies.
I know. Okay. So we are only the only country in the world that is messing around with creation after yesterday's MPs voted in favour of 3-parent families. This process uses DNA from 3 people, and experts across the globe have warned that Cameron is playing a very dangerous game. The fact that this process is actually going to only help about 2,000 people within the result of only 125 babies born, it seems to offer, it really matter to King David this, to push this through for this messing around with our DNA, Mike.
Well, what interested me about this story was that, in fact, they don't know whether this is going to happen. So, they say that by doing this, they're going to solve a particular problem for a set of babies. So those babies are born, then those babies grow up.
It's a handful of babies.
Well, yes, okay, but those babies grow up and have their own children. And at this point, they still don't know whether, in fact, those children, whether this procedure is going to help those people.
Yeah.
So they don't know whether there'll be some kind of gene reversion
Yeah.
for the next generation. So this seems like a lot of money to be spending at this stage when the NHS is on the brink of collapse.
On its knees, exactly.
So what is the motivation behind it? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, we have to ask King David.
I think we have our suspicions.
Exactly.
Okay, and
Next,
what else is going on?
Okay, this is interesting. I actually posted this up on Facebook, and when the post went up on Facebook, the headline was completely different. So the actual article is about a biography on Prince Charles, where it's written that Charlie Boy used to ask Savile to go over his speeches and make suggestions. He'd ask for advice on his marriage to Diana, and during the 80s and 90s, he was one of Charles's closest advisors. So the article then carries on towards the end to cover the story of the pair's relationship, which we all know. But towards the very bottom, they start talking about the biography, which is called Charles, the Heart of a King, and it goes on to say about Charles's dismay at being used to promote British arms trade. But I just want to show you what came up. So this is the actual article, and the headline reading, Prince Charles relied on Savile. But you post it up on Facebook, and this is what comes up. I won't be used to sell weapons anymore, says Charles. So I don't know what I don't know if is to protect Charles, or I don't know, to deter people away from the actual article, which is just showing the link so close to Jimmy Savile.
Well, other newspapers weren't mentioning the Jimmy Savile aspect of it quite so heavily, so the Mail should perhaps be applauded for that. But most of the other coverage that I saw of this was focusing on the arms dealing,
and his close links to the Saudi royal family, and how BAE Systems got in there straight away after he'd been with meetings over there.
Well, yes, indeed. And of course, what came out of that? The Al Yamama arms deal, which of course involved brown envelopes being passed between BAE and the Saudi royal family.
Yep.
This is the case that went to the Serious Fraud Office, the case that Tony Blair then closed down, and then the Serious Fraud Office accidentally lost all the evidence for.
Oh, how convenient.
So maybe Charles is feeling guilty about things that have happened in the past. I don't know. Or perhaps it's just an effort to sell a book. Possibly.
Maybe. Next.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate, for this one. Stanford University has just received a £50 million grant to start accelerating vaccine development. And guess who the lovely people are, Mike, who's donated this money? None other than eugenics frontmen Bill and Melinda Gates. 50 million donated so they can start developing more vaccines to cure things like HIV and malaria and other things, polio over there. That's so good of them, isn't it?
Well, have we any evidence that vaccines in Africa have worked to date? No. Okay. Moving on. This is interesting. Okay, so on the way into work today on the news was highlighting that it is now expected that 1 in 2 people will get cancer. Well, what a bloody good job cancer research are doing with their billions of pounds it receives and has donated. Nice to see that the figures are increasing rather than decreasing. 1.6 billion in 5 years has been invested into research, and it's widely known that there are many cancers can be cured naturally by organic and alternative therapies rather than going down the chemo and radiotherapy route, which means a lifetime of pharmaceutical drugs for the patient. Ching ching for Big Pharma, though. So I decided to call Cancer Research, and I asked a couple of simple questions as to why, after receiving billions for research, have figures actually gone up. I then asked, when did boys develop a cervix?
since they are now pushing for boys to receive the HPV cervical cancer vaccine, and asked them about the amount of girls that have been left infertile and very, very ill, and in some cases dying after having the HPV vaccine. And the lady on the press office desk, she got rather jittery and asked what time she needed to get back to me by. So I said, I'm going to be doing a little bit more into cancer research all week, but we would like her response as soon as possible. But as of yet, no joy, no response.
Okay, well, you know, 1 in 2 people in the UK to get cancer. What do you think is driving that?
Living, vaccines, who knows? Everything a part of our lives.
Our toxic lives.
Our toxic lives. We're being battered from every corner.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on then, of course, the other big story is the child abuse inquiry, and I believe that Theresa May is making she may have already done so. We haven't seen it before coming on air. The announcement of who's going to lead the next attempt at an inquiry. But in the meantime, here we have more news coming out of Rotherham. This time, a police officer accused with having sex with underage girls, and also involving 2 counsellors. It's understood. Now, I have to say that in the last issue of the UK column newspaper, we published this article, The Rotherham Common Purpose Effect. I will put this up on the website this afternoon because it seems quite timely. And really what we're saying here is that, of course, with the removal of any kind of independence of the police, with the removal of, with the creation of all these interagency groups, that we have a situation which is absolutely ripe for cover-up and for this kind of activity to go on in the background. These allegations of child sexual abuse in Rotherham, in Nottingham and in other places around the country have been going on for decades. And what we're really highlighting here, we took Rotherham as the case study. We're highlighting how it is that these cover-ups have taken place, and how, despite all the news stories over the decades about stuff that's going on, how it continues to happen pretty much unchallenged. And what we did was we put up this little diagram here, really pointing out how common purpose is absolutely at every level within the Rotherham establishment. So there we've got common purpose in the police at the highest level. We've got common purpose in Rotherham Borough Council, and of course directly involved with child safeguarding, and we've got common purpose involved with children's related third sector organisations as well. You know, the key point here, as we've been saying for many, many years now, is that common purpose is not simply a training organisation where you go and get your training and that's it. You do your day's training or your week's training, you get your certificate and off you go. It's quite the opposite. What happens is you become a graduate, you effectively are joining a club. It's a secretive club. Their meetings are held behind closed doors with Chatham House rules, so you have no idea what's actually going on. And they're looking out for each other. It's absolutely clear that they are looking out for each other and protecting each other. Whenever we have now a number of people convicted of paedophile or child porn related crimes that are common purpose graduates. In one case, the person was a common purpose leadership group member, and therefore was selecting other common purpose members. And so this situation goes on. So we decided that because this is such a serious situation and we see common purpose right at the heart of this situation, we've now produced a new article which is going in the new newspaper, which will be out next week, which is called The Nottingham Common Purpose Effect. And it's like Rotherham on steroids. It is unbelievable how the Nottingham institutions have been absolutely infiltrated by common purpose graduates. It's almost overwhelming to see how that has happened.
Is a lot of this going to be covered at the conference? Because I know we're going to be looking closely at the whole Westminster child abuse investigations and the care homes throughout the country. Are we going to be looking at this at the conference?
That's absolutely correct. The conference is going to be focusing on that section of the conference is going to be focusing on the child sex abuse inquiry and having how we create a grand jury instead, because we don't believe that we're going to get a proper inquiry out of the government. And there is going to be evidence presented. The focus isn't specifically going to be on common purpose at that event, but these articles absolutely cover that.
Can I say who we've got planning to speak? Are we allowed to announce any of the speakers for it? Yet or not?
The details will be on the BCG website shortly. Brian is sorting that out, and in fact, he's away discussing that today. So,
but it is the end of the month, 27th Friday.
Friday we arrive. 20th, 28th, and the 1st are the days of the conference.
That's BCG and UK Column Conference. So
find out at BritishConstitutionGroup.com.
Okay. Right, okay, so what can we expect for our children if Labour win the general election? Well, if the Labour Education Secretary Tristan Hunt has his way, it will be compulsory for sex education lessons for 5-year-olds. Currently, parents are able to opt out with children in primary school, but lessons are compulsory at the moment with secondary schools. So why does Tristan Hunt want the childhood innocence taken away from such a young age? Well, according to him, it's to tackle homophobic bullying. My question is, why does the child of 5 even know about homosexuality?
Is there
Why does the child even know about sex at the age of 5? So I want to say this is what he's wanting to come in. Every child under 5 to be taught about sex. So question is, are we going to end up seeing a little bit more of this? Put that on. Okay, this was an article in Sunday's Express. A 4-year-old amongst nearly 800 children investigated for rape. This Express article highlights the rising figures of children being questioned by police. According to this article, 776 children under 9 have been investigated for sex crimes since 2009. And in one case, a 4-year-old from London was questioned. Another case in Lancashire saw a 3-year-old being quizzed for a rape of a little boy. And now the article goes on with interviews from people from the NSPCC, CALMS, Barnardo's, and they all blame what children can be exposed to on the internet. Not one single person highlighted or even questioned that our children are being sexualised too young in schools. Now this, I believe, is the cause of why we are seeing so much of this, because I know I never learned. At 4 years old, you're climbing trees, you're getting muddy. This, you don't know. This is completely, there's innocence. And it's being taken away from our children. So, nice one, Tristan Hunt.
It's a crime.
It's just shocking, and it's a disgrace. And
yes, okay. Well, we shall move on. Because obviously, earlier last month, or the middle of last month, Cameron paid a visit to Barry.
They look so relaxed there. Shoulder,
yes.
You know, coat on his shoulder, and
So anyway, he went over to visit Barack Obama straight after the Charlie Hebdo thing, as we know, and but at around the same time, of course, the Counter-Terrorism and Security Bill has been passing its way through Parliament, and shortly after this meeting between Cameron and Obama, 4 Lords Blair, King, West, and Carlisle attempted to push the Snoopers Charter back into the Counter-Terrorism and Security Bill. Now, that had been in the Communications Bill from the year before, but failed to be passed. So they're trying to push that back in. But so one of the things that Cameron said as he was going over to visit Obama was that he was going to attempt to encourage US corporations to start storing data in the same kind of way as is being proposed for the Counter-Terrorism and Security Bill. But of course, in Britain, what is being proposed is that metadata will be stored. So that means who communicated to whom, when did they communicate, what platform did they use, what IP addresses were they using, this kind of thing. No, this is the point. They're not going to be storing the content. Whereas when Cameron went over to the States to talk to Obama about this, he was absolutely arguing that US corporations should help GCHQ by not only storing the metadata of people's communications, but actually the content as well. So that was in mid-January. But what has come out is this article from The Guardian today, because I found it quite ironic, because the day after that announcement, so on the Friday the 17th of January, Cameron and Obama had made a joint statement saying that in fact they were going to cooperate in this data collection business. and they were going to really push the corporations to do as Cameron was suggesting, and that this was going to be because, of course, they were going to jointly fight jihad as strongly as they could, and one way to do that was to actually have proper intelligence. So on one hand, Obama was saying that. On the other hand, he was saying, well, actually, the NSA is out of control, and we need them to wind their necks in a bit. So is this just? Are we just seeing the multifaceted nature of our modern day politicians? That on one hand they can say one thing and the next day contradict themselves completely. But anyway, eventually a report has come out, and this Guardian article here is, if we just bring that up again, Nick, is highlighting what is in that article.
Did you Photoshop that with the glasses and put those things on, or is that done?
No, that's done.
That's in
the Guardian.
Oh, okay.
The Guardian here saying that proposed changes to US data collection fall short of NSA reformers' goals. So the reformers were attempting to get the NSA to pull back from what they've been doing. But in fact, they haven't managed to do that. So what's happened is that now data gathered by the NSA for non-US citizens will be able to be held for 5 years as opposed to indefinitely, so long as it's deemed not relevant to ongoing intelligence investigations. So if it is deemed, and we don't know who makes that determination, to be relevant to ongoing intelligence investigations, then that data can be held forever. And then the other thing, the other reform is that they are asking Congress to provide some foreign nationals access to legal redress if their private information has been willfully disclosed by US intelligence agencies. And then the other thing is that they're limiting to 3 years how long the FBI can prevent disclosure of its surveillance activities using so-called national security letters. So really not too much going on there, actually. Obama's Homeland Security Advisor, Lisa Monaco, made a statement, and she said, as we continue to face threats from terrorism, proliferation, and cyber attacks, we must use our intelligence capabilities in a way that optimally protects our national security and supports our foreign policy while keeping the public trust and respecting privacy and civil liberties. So what she's basically saying is, we've got a fine line to walk here. We don't want to step too far because the public are going to get upset about that. But we're going to go right up to the line that the public is prepared to accept.
Yeah, put more fear into them.
Yes. In the meantime, the Press Gazette. Right, so they can get whatever data they want on us, but we cannot get whatever data. Right. So basically, the Press Gazette here has been attempting to get some information from the Met Police about the use of the Regulations of Investigatory Powers Act, the use of that act to get our information about us, right? And the Met Police has now barred the Press Gazette from making any further freedom of information requests. Now, it's not really clear whether that's...
They can do that, can they? And you can be banned from making freedom of information requests.
Well, the legislation, according to the Met, allows them to consider vexatious requests. So how many requests do you think it would take before you get considered vexatious?
50, 60, maybe more?
6. Yes, so the Press Gazette made 6 freedom of information requests. Right, and the Met said a public authority does not have to comply with vexatious requests. There's no requirement for a public interest test. You have made multiple requests for information related to RIPA applications concerning journalists, journalistic establishments, or records relating to journalists. From September 2014 to date, you've submitted 6 requests to the MPS related to RIPA applications concerning journalists or associated questions. The Press Gazette submitted 6 FOI requests, as the Met say, and the 6 are: how many times has the Met obtained journalistic phone records under RIPA over a 10-year period? That was rejected on cost grounds. A narrowed version of the first question, asking for specific journalists and news organisations, that was rejected on cost grounds. A request for internal emails discussing the first question, the Met provided 3 largely redacted pages of emails, and those are published on that article, which I suggest you go and read. A narrowed version of request 1, again, this was the 4th one, this time asking for the information over a 3-year period. The Met provided that information to to the Interception of Communications Commissioner. Despite this, the request was rejected on cost grounds.
What cost? What when you say cost?
Well, the
too
Freedom
much man time to look it all up.
That's right. The Freedom of Information Act puts a limit on the cost involved in producing an answer for an FOI request. So if it's considered too expensive, then they can use that as an excuse. And there were 2 other questions. So go and read this article. It's extremely interesting as to what's been going on. But vexatious after 6 requests. This is nonsense, Matt. You didn't answer the first question, and that was why you got the subsequent questions. If you'd answered the first question, you wouldn't have got the subsequent questions.
You just had the one.
This is happening with other people as well. To be honest, I think that the only way that this kind of information is going to find its way out is if people hunt in packs, as it were, but not being seen to be hunting in packs. So if the Press Gazette or other journalistic organisations want to make FOI requests, then they should perhaps do that. Well, do that on a personal basis rather than on an official basis, and under different names and so on.
Okay.
But this is kind of related, I suppose.
It is, yeah. So in 2012, 2 people went to High Court, went into battle with the High Court to have their pictures removed from the police database. We were told this would stop, but now it seems police have uploaded 18 million mugshots to a facial recognition database, even though the courts ruled it unlawful. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people are expected to be on the system. We know from Pippa King, who does a lot with eugenics and biometrics in schools, that facial recognition is being used in some areas. Leicestershire and Met Police are 2 of the forces to use this. But the system is being used by the UK Border Forces and British spy agents currently. And as I say, Bernard Hogan-Howe has said that we have to keep up with the technology today, and it is in Leicestershire, and the Met Police have found this new technology and the facial recognition invaluable.
I think I'm going to make 2 points here. I think it's a bit sad that so many people are willing to fall for the trap of taking selfies, because people have got to understand that every time you take a selfie and post it onto Facebook, that is being processed through a facial recognition algorithm. And the second point I would make is that, of course, the main biometrics on a passport now is a facial, an encode of your face. It is facial recognition. This is clearly the form of biometrics that has been decided is the least controversial because it's the most hidden. If they put a chip inside an RFID chip inside your passport, that's obvious, and people were protesting that by putting their passports in microwave ovens, for example, and blowing up the chip.
Brilliant.
It didn't really damage the passport, but it stopped the chip from working. So they've pretty much abandoned that and gone for the facial recognition platform. That seems to be the most advanced biometrics platform they have available at the moment.
And the most aggressive.
Stop taking selfies. You're falling into a trap if you do.
That's it.
So that's it for today.
That was a good one, wasn't it? It's quick.
Yeah.
To the point.
Theresa May, we expect, will have announced who the new candidate is for the child sex abuse inquiry, and no doubt you and Brian will cover that tomorrow in detail. Definitely. And I'll be back on Friday with Brian.
Yeah, BCG conference and UK Column conference, end of the month, 27th to the 1st. And you can see more info about it on the BCG website, which is BritishConstitutionGroup.com.
Correct.
See you later.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.